Good morning, everybody. It's Ned over My Philippine Dreams. Today is February 17th, 2020, the first day of the rest of our lives. And I just recently reinstalled my operating system on my main PC. I hadn't done it for like 4 years, literally. It was like 2015, so it was due. So I reinstalled everything, and I just wanted to make sure that the video streaming and the audio and everything was set up correctly. And it looks like I am live. If anybody can hear me, there's nobody watching, which isn't unusual for this channel. It's not unusual. Okay, Sasha is watching. Hope you're feeling better, sir. Yeah, I'm feeling better. Still having to take tramadol, which is not an enjoyable experience. I don't like the side effects. You get none of the euphoria from opioids, but you get all the side effects with tramadol. But you got to do it. And hopefully, good morning, Terry. All right, like I said, this was basically a test to make sure my live stream is working. Yes, James, I am feeling better. I'm glad to be out of the hospital. Even though it was a nice hospital and, you know, it had nice amenities and everything, it's nice to be out of there. All right. And I know there's a lot of dogs barking in the background. I don't know if the microphone's picking it up. I apologize for that, but my neighbors behind me are kind of, I refer to them, and I don't do this like disparagingly or insultingly, but it's like Philippine hillbillies. They have these giant dogs. And when I say giant, it's like those Malamutes. They got the giant Dobermans, the big thick Dobermans, Rottweiler, and a German Shepherd, and these little cages. And the poor things are just crazy, and they bark a lot. So yesterday I posted up a video about a young British national named Jack Whitelaw, who was killed in Siargao. He had never had a driver's license. He didn't have one in the UK. He obviously didn't have one here. He was a tourist here in the Philippines. And he was down in Siargao having a good time away from his family and friends, you know, probably doing that tour thing that, you know, these tweens do. They go off to explore the world. And he rented a motorcycle, a scooter, and he crashed it into a tree, and he died. And there was some drama over after the father was here to repatriate his son's remains after smashing into the tree. The resort or the hostel that he rented the scooter from wanted him to pay for the damages to the scooter. Now, this caused a storm of controversy, not only on the YouTube channel in the comments section, but even more so on my Philippine Dreams Facebook business page. People were really going at it. It was like something like over 40 comments. And basically the consensus was that it was the kid's fault and the family should have to pay for it because of personal responsibility. This idea of personal responsibility, that Jack was indeed a 20-year-old adult and therefore responsible for his actions and accountable for any repercussions that those actions may have caused, other than his own death and smashing into a tree and dying. There was also a lot of people assuming that he was drinking or he was drunk and doing all this stuff. We don't know about that. That's the unknown at this point. But basically it comes down to who is responsible. In my personal opinion, IMHO, in my humble opinion, both sides are responsible. Jack, if he had never ridden, should not have. And I can't imagine if you've never ridden. I'm sure he'd like ridden bicycles, so he must have had the balance thing down. But to actually go out into, you know, a developing nation with kind of crazy driving conditions and go out there and do that, I don't know where his head was at. And so you had the responsibility of him doing that. And you also had the responsibility of the company. I mean, you're supposed to have a driver's license in the Philippines. Republic Act, I forgot the number, 2386 or something. You have to have a driver's license. When I first got here to the Philippines, I was staying at Dumaguete Studio Apartments. The gentleman that manages that, and he's still with us and he's still going strong, is Dave Williams. And even though I had, you know, previous motorcycle driving experience, not only did he check my license, but he also gave me a little driving test in the backyard of the apartment complex that he had. And it was a really small area to be riding, and it was a semi-automatic scooter. I forgot what kind it was. But he wanted to make sure that I knew how to drive. Now, I don't know if he was doing that because he was concerned about my personal safety. Knowing Dave, I don't think so. Hi, Dave. But maybe he was just looking to protect his investments, his scooters, because he didn't want people crashing him or whatnot. So again, I had to prove that capacity, not only that I had a driver's license, but that I could drive. And I was actually kind of complaining because it was a very constrained area and I had to do circles. And if you're on a motorcycle, and it had been a while. But then when I got out into traffic, I was like, okay. I thought it was constrained before. This is really constrained. As for the company, I would like to see one of the things I believe a government is responsible for, and we're going to talk about nanny state and stuff like that in a little bit, but I believe that governments are responsible for improving the quality of life of their citizenry. They get elected to public office, and they should try to improve quality of life across the board. I'm also a bit of a Hobbesian. This guy, Thomas Hobbes, he wrote a book called Leviathan a long time ago. He thought the best form of government was a monarchy, but that was a long time ago that he did this. But his idea, and I hold this true, and I see this not only in other people around me, but in myself, is that human beings are inherently selfish and greedy. And he doesn't say this, but I add this to it. And we're also pretty stupid sometimes. We make some bad decisions. And one of the things government can do to protect us against ourselves is to have rules and regulations against dangerous things that people could be doing and actually enforce them. And again, at a more macro level, not just at the individual level, but at a more macro level, they're needed to protect, citizenry from pollution, from factories, exploitation of the elderly, telescammers and all that stuff, rules and laws against that. Bad food and water supplies, general crimes, unfair usury rates, unsanitary restaurants and hotels, illegal civil zoning practices, subpar construction, unsafe motor vehicles, and the list goes on and on and on. This is why in the United States we have rules and regulations, and they're actually enforced. And if you're driving around, if you ever got a speeding ticket or anything like that, you'll know that. Also, you go to get your car safety check on your car or emissions test on your car and you fail, you actually got to go get it rectified so that it doesn't fail. I'm sure in some areas of the U.S. there are still some areas where they got the wink wink and you pass them up, $100 or whatever, and they fix that. But as people were noting in the comments, especially on my Facebook page, they brought up the discussion or the arguments in some cases of the nanny state versus the quality of life versus the propagation of litigation that we have in America. Everybody's suing people for everything. Versus the wild, wild west. The freedom in the Philippines is so sweet. I don't have to wear a helmet. I don't have to wear shoes. I don't have to, really get, safety tests on my vehicle and all this stuff. But again, we have rules, we have regulations. The Philippines has all kinds of rules and regulations. They have rules and regulations for everything. Unfortunately, for some reason, I'm not sure quite why. I mean, I've only been here a little bit over 6 years, and I haven't quite figured it out yet. But a lot of times, it's just not enforced. And sometimes it can take on and when you bring it to the extreme, when things aren't enforced, you get into this Lord of the Flies type thing, and everybody's just doing what they want to do to get what they want. And again, we're talking about quality of life. When you don't have people with they don't have driver's license, they don't have insurance, they're not wearing helmets, they don't have mufflers on their motor scooters, or they have those DBS mufflers that are really loud. It increases healthcare across the board. In the Philippines, they got the PhilHealth. A lot of people, when they get into motor accidents and stuff, they go to provincial hospital, and it's PhilHealth paying the vast majority of their bill. And it also, all those things just contribute to lower quality of life. If you've been in the Philippines and you have something plugged into the wall and it's made of metal, like my PC, every time you touch it, you're going to get shocked because there's no grounds. There's no real, when they're building new construction and stuff, they're not really enforcing any kind of electrical codes that they have. Again, and you have the non-enforcement of these building codes. So when you got these, hollow block constructions and stuff, and they're going up multiple levels. That's one thing. Whenever I'm in Cebu, I'm driving around or riding around or whatever, and I'm just looking at all these gigantic condominiums, 40, 50, 60 stories high. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen if a big tremors come through. Also, littering laws. A lot of places, the only places I've seen littering laws really enforced is on the boulevard in Dipolog and it's actually beautiful. Dipolog Boardwalk is fantastic, and it shows you what happens when local ordinances against littering are enforced. I think it's like 1,000 peso fine if you get caught littering on the boulevard. And they also got trash cans all over the place. Vehicle emissions. When you're driving around the Philippines and and there's a diesel truck in front of you, whether it be a bus or a sugarcane transportation vehicle or whatever, there's literally clouds of diesel fumes coming out. And you can feel it hitting your face, all the little particulates and everything just smashing you in the face. And if you have a face mask on, when you finally get to your destination and you take it off, you're going to have, black stuff all over here and a little white space right here if you're a white guy. And trash burning ordinances. My two biggest complaints in the Philippines is the burning of the trash. And it's not only like brush and all that, it's plastic and rubber sometimes. And in the United States, we have these public disturbance noise ordinances. It's to stop people from partying too late, from blasting karaoke at all hours of the night. It addresses negligent dog owners barking, and their dogs are crazy and just barking all the time. Maybe it would be roosters. And they have those here. There's ordinances against karaoke's and loud noises and stuff. It's just not enforced. And also, the no real safety checks are performed a lot of times in the Philippines, which results sometimes in buses falling off cliffs. That happens quite a bit here, those giant buses they have. And also, and this just happened recently in Manila, the jeepney that crashed into all those kids. It was a line of kids crossing on a crosswalk, and the jeepney just plowed them down. They don't know if the guy was on drugs, which sometimes happens because, sometimes they're not doing drug testing of public, government officials and stuff. So, bottom line, in my humble opinion, and I've babbled on long enough on this, there was blame on both sides. Unfortunately, the young man is still dead. His family has to deal with that. But if the Philippines was enforcing and checking on these things, making sure that visiting tourists or that companies that rent out motorbikes or cars or anything, they have, driver's licenses. They also got to make sure they have insurance, because if the young man had gone into an accident with a Filipino family on a scooter and there was no insurance on it, who would have been responsible then? Him. And just things like that. I think it's important. And again, it would improve everybody's quality of life across the board. It would be more difficult. And also, you got to look at it from a monetary standpoint. Like in Dumaguete City, my town, the city of gentle people, who I love and hold dearly in my heart, they have, helmet laws and all these laws and, emissions and loud muffler ordinances and all that. But they don't nearly enforce it enough. I mean, if I was the mayor, I would have the LTO or the police or whatever setting up checkpoints all the time, because each time they get somebody without a helmet, it's like 1,000 pesos, and that can go towards investing in local infrastructure, and just, again, improving the quality of life across the board. And getting those dangerous camote drivers that don't have licenses, that don't have insurance, that aren't wearing helmets, that take off their side view mirrors, that, blast their mufflers and go 600 miles an hour. It would get them off the road and increase public safety. And if you're a camote rider, and camote means potato, but that's how they refer to usually young Filipinos that are driving like lunatics. They call them camote riders. Don't take offense at that. There's worse things than being called a potato. All right, so that's my take on it. Personal responsibility is one thing, but you have to have rules. You have to have regulations to protect us idiots against ourselves. And let me close this off by saying, for about the first 5.5 years I was in the Philippines, if I was driving in town, just doing errands in town, I wouldn't wear a helmet. The only time I wore helmets was on long rides. If I was going on the national highway, what they call the national highway here, it's 5 lanes of traffic and a 2-lane road. Somebody actually left that comment. I'd wear a full face helmet and all that. But when you realize that most accidents occur, within like 5 kilometers of your home. So anyways, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite by talking about this and saying this, but I just wanted to put that on the record that I am a hypocrite. And I just didn't want to be inconvenienced by wearing helmets because it's so hot here. It's not comfortable to wear a helmet. And then again, you go into these provincial hospitals and stuff, and you see everybody laid up with broken legs and cracked heads, and the vast majority of them are motorbike accidents. So there's that. All right, so let me check the comments. Let me make sure this thing is still working. Wayne Birch says they should issue speeding tickets. I think if they just do the basic shit first, just helmets and loud mufflers and all this stuff, basic emissions testing, enforcement of these giant diesel engines. Some of these sugarcane trucks are from like literally the 1950s, and they're still going strong because that's testament to these diesel engines, but they give off a lot of carbon and diesel shit. Mike in the Philippines, no license, his fault, not asking for license, company fault. Was bike in perfect working condition, was drinking unknown, loss of life is apparent. I would sue them as a company. I wouldn't go after the family. I completely agree with that, Mike in the Philippines. If it was my company, but again, I'm looking this from first world person where I got money. But if it was my company, I would not be asking. If a kid died on my scooter, I'd be like, we'll handle the repairs and stuff, because repairs on bikes aren't that expensive. Yeah, and as far as the parent suing them, I mean, at some point, people have to start putting pressure on the system to do the right thing. And even though I think Corey mentioned, hi Corey, Corey mentioned that it's going to take years and years and years for this litigation, and it could end up going nowhere, I still think it should be done to make the company accountable, and maybe the word of that will spread, and other companies will start checking licenses and making sure that people have basic capacity to drive as tourists in the Philippines. So I agree with that 100%. Yeah, what kind of condition was the bike in? Insurance? Was the kid drinking? Yeah. Kid, young man. Keith Ream says, damn yellow buses, they are crazy. Yeah, those are the Ceres buses, man. Around here in the Visayas they are. And they are lunatics. They are getting to their destination as fast as they can, come hell or high water. Eddie Jackson asks the eternal question: is the Philippines better to live in than America, and why? The answer to that is refrigerator. Hannah Reed says, you've taken the blue pill. Oh, here we go with the blue pill and the red pill shit. In the U.S., the FDA is there to make you sick, not to keep you healthy. I think you're taking, Hannah Reed, I think you're taking that a little bit for granted. There is a lot of consumer protection in the United States, and it's there for a reason. If you actually dug a little bit deeper and did your research, I think that you'd find that the FDA, when it comes, again, when you're talking a population of 300 million people and the amount of food required to feed that population, and when you see the food that's coming into the Philippines, and the Philippines has their own version of the FDA, but again, it's not like the United States where they have this huge operating budget. They can have all these agents going out and checking all these shipping containers. There's been a bunch of reports in the past 30 days of all this pork product and stuff coming in from China that's infused with this swine flu and all kinds of other stuffs, and it's like greenish yellow, whitish bulbs and all these protuberances on it. So again, and I cannot believe I can't believe you're going there. When I go to the United States, I see the effect of enforcement of rules and regulations. When I'm just driving around, wherever I'm going, anywhere, going to a restaurant, just doing anything, you see the benefit. So as for the other guy, is America better? Yeah, it's got its ups and downs. Sasha says, Nick, question. I bought my Panay a new XR125. What insurance company do you use, or is insurance a joke there? If it's just a scooter, I just get the basic insurance. I use Perla here in Dumaguete. I think Perla is actually Philippines wide. I'm not sure. But it's dirt cheap, man. It's like $50. The insurance on my Hyundai Tucson, I got a 2016 Hyundai Tucson I just got. 500,000 pesos, that's a little bit under what I paid for it, worth of insurance and medical stuff, all that, with a $100 deductible, is $340 a year here in the Philippines. So insurance, even with cars, is cheap. I hope that answers your question. And the XR125, the best all-around scooter in the Philippines, in my humble opinion, is the XR125. It's small, it's maneuverable, it can basically go anywhere. It's got that off-road capability. It's got a good suspension system in it, and it's Honda, and it lasts forever. So if they could sell just one scooter in the Philippines, it should be the XR125. Dun, dun, dun. Ryan Rashband says, I didn't see that many accidents in over 2 years in the Philippines. I've seen quite a few accidents. I know people that are dead because of accidents. Yeah. Actually, there's this guy I knew up in Bacolod. He was up in Bacolod. And he got into an accident. He was drinking. He admitted that he was drinking. And he didn't have a full face helmet on, and he landed on his face. And, yeah. He's back. He's going back to the United States for reconstructive surgery, plastic surgery. All right, yeah. It's a new XR125. Should have 3 years LTO and insurance. It should, but check on that. I have a 2017 Honda Click, and I keep checking in with Honda, the dealership. I'm like, and my license plate still isn't here. Never mind the stickers. So everybody's got their temporary plates or the 4 registration. Whoa, Ian Pennebaker, $20 for the diaper fund. Thank you very much for that. Yep. Chichai is almost at 3 months now. She's a slender girl, but she is definitely starting to protrude. Thank you much for that. It's going to the diaper fund. Yeah, because I heard that stuff's expensive. This is my first experience with a child. It's hers too. Yeah. Diaper fund. That's what we're calling it, Uncle Ruckus. Diaper fund. LOLOL. All right, Uncle Ruckus, you've been with the channel for a long time. Go ahead. Hit me up with a diaper fund. Thank you for that, Ian. Much appreciated. All right, so that's basically it. I just wanted to test that this live stream system was working, talk a little bit about personal responsibility. I understand the dangers of the nanny state and that they can overreach quite a bit sometimes, governments. But I actually, there's this guy I know here, I'm not going to say his name, Corey. And I think at one point he had a business and he was going to import Suzuki multicabs to the United States. And he hit a snag when the government said they wouldn't be able to pass emissions, or there was some problem with the emissions on the Suzuki multicabs. So he wasn't able to do that. So again, sometimes government is there to protect us against ourselves, to protect us against our greed, our selfishness, and as I admitted, 5.5 years of stupidity of not wearing a helmet in a developing nation with crazy traffic. Eddie Jackson, he says, how long have you been living there? I've been here 6.5 fun-filled years. Robbie Morris says, I have the big NMAX, and it came with the insurance. Yeah, usually if you buy new, it's going to come with insurance. But again, double check. Mark Freeman says, tons of Kawasaki there, trikes mostly. Yeah, I think there's one version of the Kawasaki, and it says T-Pit on it, which means it's really efficient. They like to use that one. I forgot how many cc's it is, but that is the preferred bike of the trike drivers because it's good on gas, it's powerful, and it's reliable. You also see a lot of Rusies now being used as trike. Yeah, Bruce Bogan says, we lost a good expat near Bareilly. He had a tricycle and was demolished by a series bus that was passing on a blind curve. Oh, and let me reiterate once again. When I'm driving my scooter around the Philippines, I'm always railing and ranting against these, what I call Filipino slow turners in cars and trucks and SUVs. When they get to a turn, they turn very slowly. So a lot of times you got to put your foot down and wait for them to complete the turn. Drives you crazy. Now that I have a car once again in the Philippines, because I guess I had forgotten this, I'm a Filipino slow turner. When I get to a turn, I'm going around it very slow. Oh, another thing with these new cars that freaked me out completely. As we went up to Twin Lakes, we went up this big mountain road about 10 kilometers. By the way, the Tucson CRDI is getting about 28 miles to the gallon with a diesel. Anyways, We're driving up through this really narrow road. I mean, it's basically almost the width of the car. And every time I turned sharply, I'd see high beams flashing. And I'd be like, what the hell? What's going on? What's going on? Come to find out, the Tucson's got this thing that when you're turning in a certain direction, it turns a light on in that direction, or it's turning the beams. I'm not sure what's going on. But it was freaking me out because every time I took a sharp right or a sharp left, this, high beam would go on. And I thought that was pretty cool, actually. Yeah. So, anyways, I thought I was going to leave. Sasha says diapers are cheap there. Sasha would know. The voice of experience. Also, if you're in the greater Dumaguete area and you have some baby items that you no longer need, I don't know, like carriages, cribs, carriers, any of those things, car seats, any of that, you're looking to get rid of them, send me a message at myphilippinedreams@gmail.com because I'll probably be able to utilize those in about 6 months. And then once we're done with it, I'll pass it on to somebody else. And I'm not saying give it to me free. I'll pay for it. Uncle Ruckus says, yeah, milk and diapers, etc. for our baby was about $20 a month, 1,000 pesos, cheap. Jeff Rice says, any future names for the new baby? Yeah, we've been throwing a couple around. But yeah, I like Amara for a girl and Zane for a boy because I'm playing Borderlands 3 and that's the name of 2 characters. Oh yeah, we're getting married. Shoot, less than 2 weeks. My freedom is coming to an end. K. Oldsey says, any action on the 10 million peso house? Yeah, he's gotten a number of conversations going on right now with some people that saw the video and stuff, and I guess they're negotiating it. That 10 million pesos is his asking price. I mean, he's been in the Philippines for a long time, so he knows to start at the high number and then work the way down. Ryan Rasban says, how many kids are you going to have? That's up to her. Ben Bram says it's called a cornering light. Thank you for bringing me into the 21st century. The last car I had, newish car I had, was a 2003 Toyota 4Runner. And it didn't have these amenities. That was a great truck, though. Those 4Runners, love Toyotas. Then the Pajero I had here was like a 1998. So, yeah. Chris, happy wife, happy life. Uncle Ruckus says, your first marriage, Ned. Yep, it's my first marriage. I like to think it's my first and last at my advanced age. Somebody said something about they preferring the jeepneys over other transportation. I don't know if and I'm not big. I mean, I'm like 5'10", but I have a hard time getting into those jeepneys and getting off of those jeepneys. They're Filipino sized. They're going to be a little rough. William Burnell says, might want to keep the baby stuff from number 2. Oh, yeah. Uland123456 says, what is the best car to own in the Philippines? I did a lot of research on this, actually. If you're a smaller person and you don't mind compact cars, they got the Toyota Yaris, they got the Honda Civic, the Cities. And I'll tell you what, those new Honda Civics and even the Cities, they look like BMWs. So those are fuel efficient and reliable. But I tell you what, I really love. I was super impressed by the handling and everything of the Hyundai Tucson, the CRDI. It's got power, even though I think I only used the power once because I just wanted to test it to pass somebody. But usually I'll just stay behind the trike and recline because it's got the center console, so you do the gangster lean. You got the music playing, you get the aircon on, the cabin filters filtering out all the particulates. Yeah. Sasha says, I always hit my head in jeepneys. I'm only 5'8". Yeah, man, those jeepneys are rough. And somebody once said, and his name was Peter V. I guess we'll just say his full name. Peter Vandiver once said, and I never forget this, real kings don't take jeepneys, or something like that. Yeah, he was making fun. That was good. I guess, the EcoSport, I think that's Ford. Michael Mulbeyer says EcoSport. Yeah. Marco Teva says, best car in the Philippines is one driven by someone else. No liabilities, no worries. Well said, sir. Well said. Or they got the Hyundai Accents, CRDI ones. And those get incredible gas miles. Those get like 42, 45 miles to the gallon. Howard McCormick, he's pimping in a Ford Ranger XLT. Yeah, they got those. I was thinking about the Fortuner, but they're so much bigger, and parking can be a little bit of a problem. The only issues I have so far is with the freaking Hyundai Tucson window regulators. These things right here, this little plastic piece, and I guess in hot tropical environments, once this plastic heats up and you go to roll your window down or up, it strips the gearing on the inside, and you need a new window regulator, an entire assembly. It's a panel. Instead of, you can't just get this part, and that costs about $180. All right, that's enough. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We got 100 people watching. Thank you again, Ian, for the diaper fund money. It is much appreciated. And if you have any comments on the nanny state versus the freedom of the Philippines, because not many rules and regulations are enforced, please leave that down in the comments section. Till next time, this is Ned. Chichai's still sleeping. And I'll see you next time on My Philippine Dreams. Peace.